Okay then, Midnight Charlie Man, midnight quarter, midnight song. Patrick here. I was upstairs. I am in frame. Got the I got the newer set up. First things first, one thing at a time. Right. Okay. So I was thinking about filming, and because okay, one thing at a time. I got many thoughts at once. I was thinking about filming, and then I got really excited about filming, and I thought about a few things. So I thought, all right, come down here, and I'm gonna put the new light. So put the new light up. So I got my newer stand. And the thing about coming down here today was that it's all set up. And since filming last week, I just left it all down here in the garage. And I thought I'll come down here again. I'm using the newer light today. You know, I've got this is the newer light with the tungsten, with the orange. Okay, so the light's on. It's all set up, which is fantastic. It's actually very good here in the garage. It's very good. I enjoyed just leaving this here, and okay, so very excited today for some reason. Very excited today. It's very good, and it's very good. Midnight Charlie Man, Midnight Charlie Man, Midnight Charlie Man, Midnight Charlie Man. Yes, oh yeah, Midnight Charlie Man, oh yeah, Midnight Charlie Man. Okay, it'd be really good if this lighting turns out. That'll be fantastic. I was remembering Sega World Sydney. Remember Sega World Sydney, Darling Harbour? It opened in 1996. I was part of the opening crew. I was ride operator at Sega World Sydney, Darling Harbour. 96, I left there late 98, and I just remember it because they said to us, now listen. They said this is a business. We're running a business here. There's not a charity. They said, because you had the ride passes, the ride the tokens. When you came into the park, you were given a card, and you could put all these points on it to go on all the rides. And our supervisors would come around to us and they'd say, some of you guys, someone comes to the ride and says, oh, you know, look, I'm a couple of points short. I've done all the rides, I'm a couple of points short. We're supposed to say, well, you've got to go back to the ticketing machine, and you've got to top up your card, and then you can go on. Well, they said, you know, some of you aren't doing that. You've got to make sure that they go back, even if they're a point or two short, they must go back to the ticketing machine. They must put another $10 in their card, and then when they come back to you, you let them ride. Well, it's a fun park, it's an amusement park. If a person came up to me, and also some of the other people that I work with there, some of them who weren't a part of the A crowd, was never part of the A crowd, and because the A crowd were a bit, you know, we come up here and have a bit of a chat. Oh, hey, going on? Yeah, how you doing today? What's this all about? And they'd say, oh look, we've just spent a few hours in the park. We've just gone all the rides. This is the last one. We don't have enough we don't actually have enough tokens on our card. We don't have enough points on our card. And I'd be like, if they come up to me and they said, look, mate, they say, I'd really like to go on this. I don't have enough points up to my card. I said, look, just don't worry about it. Come on the ride. I let them on, and it was close enough to be honest. It was close enough to a charity. It was an amusement park. People go there to enjoy themselves, to have fun, and every time the supervisor would come up to me and say, look, you've got to make sure that you're checking people's tickets. You've got to make sure that you're checking their card, because they zapped on the electronic thing, and just make sure that I'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah, no worries, yeah, very good. There was many people, you know, they'd come up, as I said, they'd come up to me, and they, you know, have a bit of a chat, and they said, what's all this, what this ride about, because it was Rail Chase, Magic Motion, Ghost Hunters, Aquanova, AS1, Mad Bazooka. Mad Bazooka, I spent very little time on that, very little time. And there was, what else was there? Mad Baz, and was not bad as VR1. And I spent countless hours on Aquanova. I spent countless hours on Ghost Hunters and Magic Motion, and maybe did about 5 shifts all up on Mad Berserk. I didn't really like. I didn't really like it. It was more like a dodging card thing. You shoot the balls out of the thing at the front, and I didn't really like it. But I had many conversations, and people would come up to me and they'd say, I only have a certain amount of points left on my card. There's huge crowds, especially during school holidays. You know, you get a group of people coming up, and one of them says, we really want to come on this, but we don't have enough things left. I say, give me a card, give me a card. They give me the card. And I'd like, no. Alright, done, you're done. And I'd do that. And you know, be a quiet period. There's a couple of people that I work with there. The particular guy that I work with, Doug, he was older than me. He'd had a lot of life experience, and you know, one day, I don't know, this chap started talking to him around trains, and they're having a chat and all that, and you know, and Doug says, "Want to have a go?" He goes, "Oh, I don't have enough tokens, mate." He said, "Oh, no, come on, have a go." He said, "Yeah, come on." Because it was about close enough to a carriage you can get. The place eventually, Sega World Sydney. Also, I had a very good time working at Sega World Sydney. It was one of the best fun jobs I ever had. I have actually very good memories of the place. I had a great time there, and I had a very good time there. I have actually very fond memories of it. It was very good. I started off. I think I started off as a casual or something, or a part-time, and eventually went full-time there. It was very Sega World Sydney. Those were the good old days. And the thing is, they eventually had, once it shut down, the Sega World, they eventually had raves there. I think they eventually started having raves there, and then I think it was eventually demolished around 2004. I think it was eventually demolished. It's a little bit sad that it's not there anymore, just in the fact that you know, I did work there, but just the good old days, and it was actually quite attractive. And then they built the big Commonwealth Bank site there, and that's not so attractive. Yeah, come up and say, hey, what's this all about? You tell me about this, and you know, have a bit of a chat. And I met all sorts of people from different walks of, all sorts of different people. I met all different people. I met different people from all different walks of life, and they would say, oh, let's say, someone would say, I'd really like to have a go on this, but I don't have enough points in my card, so just kind of you just give me a card, give me a card. So I used to talk a little differently back then, but anyway. So talking to people, I said, okay, so hi guys, how you going? Having a good day? Yes. And they said, yeah, we really want to go on it, and this is a fair amount of people around. And they said, oh yeah, we really want to go on this, but we don't have enough things now. I said, look, just give me a few minutes. Let's just chat for a few minutes. Okay, chat for a few minutes. Okay, great, good. Thanks, mate. I was very excited to come down here today to make this video, and I'm going to also have so much fun editing this on Shotcut. Yeah. And very good, yes, very good. And I really, I hope that this new lighting is turning out, because it's turning out, it's going to be very, very good. Indeed-o. Very good, so the line to excited video and put in the Shotcut, do a little bit of acid on it and post it in YouTube. Oh, very good indeed. Okay, something very important to mention. Put this back out of the way. This is a slicing. Something very important to mention. I'm not into theme parks. I happened to be offered a job in one at SeaWorld. I was offered a job. I've never been a fan of theme parks. I've never been excited to go to a theme park. I was offered a job at one. I was grateful for that position. I had fun there. I'm not a fan of theme parks. And one thing that we were constantly asked by people that come into the park, they'd say, "Do you go on the ride?" I'd be like, "This is the thing. This is no." Because during training, because before Sega World, there was about 2 months. We had 2 months of training before Sega World opened to the public, and during that training, which was 5 days a week, we constantly went on the rides. While we were trained to operate them, we'd go on them, and so we did that for all the rides. We were in there for 2 months before it opened to the public. We all went on the rides, enough to drive us bonkers, and to question our sanity. And so much, over and over and over and over again during the day, during an 8 or 10 hour shift, 5 days a week, to understand how the rides worked and to operate them, and all the different safety procedures that go along with that. And so we would ride them for 8 hours a day, so much so that when I go home to sleep, I would dream that I was still there. So yes, I did go on the rides during training. Oh my gosh, that was a lot. Yes, especially for someone who's not really into theme parks. I enjoyed talking to the people. I enjoyed socialising with all the guests that came into the park. I enjoyed that aspect. I also enjoyed operating, but I was never a fanatic. I was never overly passionate about it. One thing about Sega World is that it had the big TV screen. It was down the other end of the park, next to Aquanova, just outside Aquanova, had a massive TV screen. Used to play a lot of music on that. I was about to say the classic hits of the 80s, but in the 90s, the 80s weren't classic yet. But had the big TV screen. They used to play a lot of music and all sorts of things like that. No, not a fan of rides. I'm not a fan of theme parks. Never really have been. I'm out of breath because I was upstairs in the lounge room, and I just remembered one more thing to say, so I rushed back down here to do this. I'm not a fan of theme parks. I appreciated working at Sega World. I used to greatly enjoy talking with people, and then they say, "Do you go on the rides?" Like, no, I did enough of that during training. Don't really feel the need to go on them when you're actually operating, or when you're there. You're there, and so no, I didn't know. Okay. Oh, and sorry, battery. Yes, very good. My supervisor, Brad. Okay, Brad. Great guy. He had done a lot of different things in his life, and he'd tell us stories and, just tell stories to us, and just have a casual chat. He didn't say, "What are you doing? Get a broom in your hand, get to work." He'd walk up to the ride and he'd say, "Hey, hey guys, how you going, fellas? How you going? How you doing?" And had a lot of when he'd come up to my ride, say, "Hey Patrick, how you going? How's it going today?" And I'd have a bit of a chat with him. He's a very good guy that way. He was very relaxed about things. He didn't really take the place too seriously. He just he enjoyed working there, and he was always good for a chat. And he'd say, "Oh yeah, one day you're back out into the real world." Yeah, no, Brad was good guy. Very interesting person. Okay. Oh, so this is a big huge one. A vital detail, actually, because I said before the training was 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. It was not 8 hours a day. What happened was they got us in about 4 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week, for about 4 hours of training, 4 to 5 hours of training. And I actually started my training on Aquanova. Aquanova, we're all assigned a particular ride, because then the way they did it, they just divided us all up. Some people were at the other end of the park. I was on Aquanova and AS1, and so it's been 4 to 5, could have been 6 hours. I'm fairly certain it was about 4 to 5 hour shifts. I had 4 to 5 hour shifts on Aquanova. And so that was some intense training on Aquanova, and it was AS1, and so trained on very specific rides. And so when the park opened, and so I spent about the first 6 weeks on Aquanova, operating Aquanova for 8 hours per day. And that can get you after a while. Aquanova, operating Aquanova for 8 hours a day, and spending some time outside the ride, the front of the ride, speaking with the guests, interacting with the guests, or operating. And sometimes, like after an hour, like if someone's operating the ride, they'd be like, can you operate? Can you please operate? Please. Okay, so what happened then was I ran out of memory because I didn't delete enough files before, and so I was sent up to. I would have been sent up to Ghost Hunters. I can't remember which one I was cross-trained on first. I went up to Ghost Hunters, learned all about Ghost Hunters. And then eventually I got trained on rail chase and magic motion. That took a while. That took a couple of months. But the first 3 months I was in the park, I was Aquanova, yeah. And what else? Was there anything else? Yeah, just that. Because what happened when you'd go into Aquanova and there was these seats and it was like a space shuttle thing, and then you had the big screen and you went through these tunnels or whatever, and there was like a monster underwater creature. It was like there was like an underwater creature, and we had to add dialogue to it. There was a specific script when we started, but once we got the hang of things, we just made up our own thing. And I think in the periods down the track when I got completely over, I didn't say anything. Sometimes I just wouldn't say anything. But we added dialogue to that. Majority of the time we added dialogue to it. And many people did not like to operate Aquanova. And I was like, they'd say, have you done many hours on this? I'd like, well, when the park opened, this is what I was trained on. I was trained on this ride. And then for the first 2 months, this is what they're like, oh, you did this for 2 months? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, so far. And yeah, it'll get to you a bit if you're doing it continuously. It's partly exciting. Yeah. What else was there? Was something? Was there anything else that I was going to add to this? Was there anything else? Down the dark hallway, and we see the painting was being painted by the phantom, and inside the chasm of his anxiety, where he lay his heavy head with his thoughts that wander into the night. Yes. And so, yes, don't have to be on Aquanova forever. And I remember one day, because I've been on Aquanova for I've been operating for 2 months, about 2 months straight, Aquanova, and I just went, you don't have to operate Aquanova forever. You're not stuck on Aquanova. So far. And he said, we're gonna get you off. You're doing a fantastic job. You're not stuck on Aquanova forever. So far. Yeah, and you're not stuck on this, and so far. And I think the most endurance-wise, like if you had to work and you're hungover or something, AS1 was an unfortunate ride to get stuck on for a shift, because there wasn't much to it. It was a stairs, capsule, operating panel, 4 minutes. That's it, literally, there's nowhere to go. And so it was the AS1 could be a bit unfortunate, to be honest, in a sense. Oh yes, it's funny now. So yes, so it'd been a couple of months on Aquanova. I remember one day a supervisor comes up to me. I don't remember if it was Brad or if it was Ben. And he said, Patrick, he said, Pat, I said, you're not stuck on Aquanova. You're not stuck. He said, all right, Pat. He said, all right, Pat. You're not stuck on Aquanova. And he said, we're going to get you off here. We haven't forgotten about you. We're going to get you off here. We're going to cross train you. We're going to get you up down the end of the park. And because Aquanova was a bit rigorous, it it wasn't really funny at the it definitely was not funny at the time. Yeah. Now, a good ride to be on. A really good ride to be on if you want to socialise. If you wanted to socialise, Ghost Hunters. Because it was just the platform. And you put people on the ride that way. So, facing the ride, you get the console, put people on, and leave people alight. And especially on days when there was off-peak days when there was no one in the park, you could talk for hours. You could just converse for hours on the ride, which I did. And if you're usually I was on the ride with someone I liked, that I got along well with. And that's the thing about the park, is that they would assign people to rides who you'd be on the ride with a friend, someone who you get along with. Very rarely you'd be put on with someone who you get along with. And so Ghost Hunters talk for hours, and talk for hours. Actually, okay. Okay, so I was operating Aquanova, and I just finished putting some people through, and I opened the exit door, and the people are walking out. And so I come out of Aquanova, and who passes me? Dame Edna Everidge. Dame Edna Everidge walks this way. She'd been in the park for some reason. So she walks this way. I'm like, oh! I said, hi. She's like, hello, possum! And I'm like, oh! And then that was a fun moment. And just like literally like 20 minutes later, I was downstairs in the staff outside, because as I said, there's a big staff area, and I was outside where people used to have a smoke. I don't smoke, but I would hang out there anyway in the staff area. And Dame Edna Everidge hailed a taxi and got in the taxi, and yeah, met Dame Edna, and that was cool. Okay, so right, so at Sega World, it was virtually impossible. It was very difficult not to get shifts, and this is how it works. So next to Aquanova, there was a corridor-like, staff-only area, corridor-like, and that's where they put all the roster up at the end of each week. They put the roster up there so you can see what shifts you got. And I remember everyone would conjugate in that. Everyone would go in there, look up what shifts they got, and all the some of the gung ho workaholics would be like, oh, I only got 4 shifts next week. Well, I've only got 4 shifts next week. Or usually they'd balance all the shifts out, and I'd always look up there and be like 5 days. So I'd be like, okay, I've got 2 days off, or if I only had 4 days, like one of my supervisors would come up to me and say, Pat, you only got 4 days, I can give you an extra day. I would never actually say no, I'd always say yes. And I'd be like, oh, I thought I was getting a 3-day weekend, because I relished days off. I was never a workaholic. But what would happen is that, you see, what would happen is that so when the park first opened, and for instance, I'd been in the middle of my shift or toward the end of my shift, and the supervisor would come up to me and say, "Pat, looks like an extra 3 hours tonight. Someone's called in sick. Do you want an extra 3 hours?" I never said no. I guess I just wanted to keep the harmony. I never said no. Always said yes to it, and it happened a lot. It would happen a lot, and especially on my days off. Often, well, especially in the opening days of the park, on my days off, I'd have one of my supervisors call me and say, "Pat, it's Ben from Sega World. How you doing? Can you come in? Someone's called in sick. We need people today. Someone's called in sick. Can you come in?" And I'll be like, I never said no. I always said yes. So I said yes. So I was there 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and there'd be shift swapping. So if you couldn't do your shift on a particular day, and if you found someone who could do your shift, you'd swap shifts. And I'm like, I really love my days off. As a certain amount of people in the park were workaholics, and we were all in our 20s, and I wasn't ever. Yes, condensed. I'm trying to chop it down, but it's extending somewhat. What was I going to say? Oh, that's right. Now, I said before I wasn't part of the A crowd. I was my own A crowd. I was my own. I was my own A crowd. That's right. Yes, I was. Yeah. Okay, so everything wasn't smooth sailing at Sega World, but I have chosen to remember it as a positive experience. I'm quite tempted to. I may need to come down here tomorrow morning and do this in the morning down here. Okay, so it was very complicated at Sega World. It wasn't all smooth. Camera actually just ran out of memory. Camera just had a memory as I was in mid-sentence. Okay, so seeing as I'm talking about Sega World, I'm not going to play the fool. I won't play the fool because it was. I was not treated so well. I remember back to Sega World occasionally. I talk about it occasionally. It's one of the most fun jobs I ever had. I'm not going to play the fool though. And there was this guy that came along toward the end, about 6 months toward the end, and I had to trigger my memory. I had to think. I was just upstairs in the lounge. Room, and it was on my mind so much because I'm editing a video that I'm about to put up, and the head of rides left, and a new guy came in, and I finally remembered his name. I'm fairly certain his name was Scott, and I had said a couple of things to a ride supervisor. I'd said a couple of things, and Scott reprimanded me, and Scott got me to come up to his office, and I went up to his office, and I knew I was on thin ice, and Scott, I didn't want the job. I needed the job. I didn't want the job. I needed the job. And fuck you and your psychoanalysis that day, and playing mind games with me that day, and you know, with your reverse psychology. As I dragged chains of yesterday along the street, and hear their sound behind me, and and my corner of sorrow, and the ruins of yesterday, as it lurks behind me, and I see in front of me the animal, fuck you. And it takes two to tango. I played along, I played along, Scott played along, and because he wasn't the same. He was I should have stood. Well, should have, could have, would have that day. There's certain could have just got up and walked out. But for some particular reason, I felt like I needed to stay at Sega World longer, and so and that day he's looking at me, and he's waiting for me to give in, and I said, no, I didn't want the job, I needed it. And Scott, real ball breaker, real ball breaker. And I played the full part, I played it, and perhaps I shouldn't have done that. No, but I played the full part with your bullshit, and the way you spoke to me that morning, with your bullshit. Boing. With your bullshit, with your bullshit, with your bullshit, with your bullshit that morning. And Scott, as I drag the chains of yesterday behind me, and I feel the sun come down with the dark words that heave themselves upon my shoulders, as I capture the pain and the ruins of that which once was, the sorrow toward the sadness looking into the distance, where I find the old dream which is attached to the new pain, dragging the chains of yesterday. So it wasn't all fun and games at Sega, and there were people that weren't on my side. There were people that attempted to bring me down. I had my small group of acquaintances. I had my small group of acquaintances and friends. Actually, in fact, I knew all the best people in the park. It was a big mix of people. But yeah, it came. The Sega World came with its challenges, and sometimes I wasn't treated very well, and had to stand up for myself, and did stand up for myself, and presented an attitude at the time, and that was out of survival. I carried my resignation around in my pocket with me for 2 months before I finally I handed it in, and I handed it in. Perhaps I'll speak about that a bit later. And I did that. And I played the fool with certain people. I played the fool sometimes. I did that. Was there for almost 2 years. I don't know, a year and 10 months. And so I'd had enough. And there were a lot of people who were complaining there, a great deal of people who were complaining, and I just thought, no, I'm done, I've had it. And got out of there, and actually I felt greatly relieved when I resigned. Actually, I resigned and got on with life. I just moved on. I happily moved on. Yeah, I happily moved on. I was there for as long as I needed to be there for. I was there for as long as I needed to be there for. And I met some very interesting people while I was there. And the thing is now, these days, I remember the people. I remember the people that were good to me, and also remember the people that weren't so good to me. Drag the chains of yesterday into a different world that I hold and keep and dissect. As I look at the clown's face who laughs at me and then cries. So I will not play the fool on this. I won't play the fool on it. Yeah, and so I came down here to the garage to do this. I came down here to the garage to do this now. Yeah. Okay, now there was Kim and there was Linda, and they were park managers. And Kim was wonderful to me, very supportive of me. Linda was a nasty. She had something wrong with her personality. Not elite is the wrong word. She was not a nice person, and she displayed this to me not long after I joined Sega World. When she was with Kim on the floor, she'd be looking at me with a particular eye. She'd just be not a nice person. The malicious, the ill-intended, ill-spirited in her was just waiting to get out, and so she'd be, oh, that's really nice, oh, that's nice, isn't it? It's nice. And when she was on the floor with other people, she'd be nice to me. The moment that I saw her by myself, it was just me and her. When it was behind the scenes, when it was just, you had the exit door and then you had the staff quarters, and we would cross paths walking up the stairs, and it would be, she would give me that look, never spoke a word to me, always completely ignored me. I think that was her way of trying to, I think she had a bit of pain there, she was nasty, and I think that was her way of trying to get rid of me out of Sega. But I stood my ground with her, and I stood my ground because I wanted to be there. I only had to see her about once a week to once a fortnight, I think, because she didn't really walk up to the floor. When I say the floor, that was the amusement park level where all the rides and the arcades were. I think we call it the floor. She didn't go up there that often. When she did, it was usually with Kim, and Kim always had good words for me, and Linda was I don't remember her last name. Linda was not a nice person, and I actually mentioned this to a couple of workmates at Sega, a couple of my mates. I said, because I used to speak a bit different. I don't speak the way I speak now. And I said, there's a problem. There's a problem with Linda. And they said, yeah. And some of them said, oh, I know. And they said, you know what? be better than it. Just ignore it. Just, it's not a great deal you can do. Well, it is, but is it worth it? And just, I said, this place has a limited time, so if you can sort of just put up with it or ignore it, whatnot, whatever. And so I wouldn't let it get to me greatly. She wasn't on the floor that often. Didn't have to see her that often. And I used to match her on it too, because after a fight I'd be just like, I think perhaps she was threatened by me. I think perhaps she was threatened by me. I was 10 years younger than her, handsome, and perhaps she felt quite threatened by me. And you know, occasionally, every now and then, apart from doing this video, because I was occasionally, every now and again, when I think of Sega World, I occasionally remember everyone, and man, she was nasty. And I remember I was in Harbour, and I was with Craig. Craig's a guy. He was from England. He was from London. Never seen Craig since. I think he had a couple of hours of Channel 9 per week. He was trying to get into a Channel 9. He had a couple of hours then per week, and had some long shift at Mad Baz. And I was talking about resigning, and Craig said, "Yeah, you've been carrying that resignation around in your pocket for months. Are you going to do anything about it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, because I've been talking about it, and so I walked out up to Ben Smith. He was a Queenslander. Up to Ben Smith, and walked up to Ben Smith, and said, "I quit. And I walked off. He said, "Oh, Pat." He said, "Pat." He said, "Okay, all right." So he said, "You realise that if you do this." Okay, so you realise that if you do this, and I go downstairs and I make this official, that's it. Like, I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yep, that's the whole point." I said, I've been carrying this around in my pocket for 2 months." He said, "Oh, no, you have." I was like, "You know," he said, "Everyone knows you have." And he said, "Just let you know, if I go downstairs, I just want you to know this, if I go downstairs, I give it to the guys downstairs, I give it to management, they stamp it, it's official, just to let you know." And I'm like, "Great, go do it. Great. Pat, are you totally sure? Are you totally sure about this?" I said, "I quit. You should." "Yes." And I, "Yep, okay." So he went downstairs, and do you know what? It may not have been Ben that I handed my resignation to. It is so blurry. The details are so blurry now. But I was venturing into my brain, and then I had this image of this other supervisor, and it was Brett. I can't find the video. I handed my resignation to Brett. That's who I handed my resignation to, Brett. And he came back up. He said, "You've all right, got 2 weeks left." And Craig said, "Ah, you did it." Yeah. And within an hour of me doing it, everyone in the park knew. And I said, Pat resigned. Pat's got 2 weeks left. Pat just resigned. Because any time that a full-timer who'd been doing full-time for a while, any time a full-timer resigned was a big deal. That was a huge big deal. So news raced around the park. It was in the space of about an hour. Everyone said, heard you quit. Pat resigned. Pat quit. And I felt great relief, but that last 2 weeks is slow. It goes so slowly. Oh my gosh. That was slow. But I felt tremendous relief. And I just moved, I moved on. I actually didn't have any regrets. I just moved on with relief. I didn't regret that decision. Moved on, and I didn't think. In fact, I didn't think about Sega World for some time afterwards. I didn't think about Sega World at all for a while, for quite a long time after that. In fact, 2000, the year 2000 was a very interesting year. That was I could maybe go into that some other time, but 2000, that was 1999 and 2000 were very interesting years. Yeah, they were interesting. And I thought I was going to say, maybe can I come down tomorrow morning and talk about this and then. And I thought, you know what, I'll just go down to the garage tonight. Okay, so I needed to say those things, and yeah. Don't know if this will be the end of the video though. I'm not sure if this will be the end. Well, they were the adventures of Sega World for me, but I don't know if this is going to be the end of the video. I've had something on my mind all day, and I need to speak about. At Sega World, the head of rides, that guy came in like a tourist. Came in like a tourist. Scott, his name was Scott. He came in like a tourist, a very aggressive guy, no fun, and the guy that used to be head of rides before him, I think his name was Mark. He was a bit of a pushover. And then Scott strolls in, having fun, and this was the situation. I said something to a ride supervisor that morning, and you know the term dibber-dobber. Well, this guy became a dibber-dobber. This ride operator. I just said ride operator. I meant ride supervisor, and this guy was younger than me, and he was trying to be superior over me, and he was pushing my buttons that morning, and I'd had quite enough, and I was under a bit of stress, and yeah, and said a couple of things to him. He went straight to head of rides. Head of rides comes to me, my office now. I get up to his office. I've been reflecting on this, and I was sort of thinking about it. Okay, so on the ride that day, on the ride that morning, the supervisor came in. He came in. He's a younger supervisor than me. And we didn't get along. We used to get along, but upon attaining supervisor status, he developed a superiority complex. And so by this point, yeah, we weren't getting along. He's saying something to me. He's saying something to me that morning. I said, "You're busting my balls. You're busting my balls." He left. He went straight to the head of rides. Head of rides says, "Get in my office." And I got into his office. He's like, "Is he busting your balls? Is he busting your balls?" Yeah, he was busting my balls. He was busting my balls. He was ball breaker. Indeed, he was. Indeed, he was. In fact, this video could have ended up going for 2 hours, and I'm not going to do that. Got enough down there already, and yeah, so that's what I said. And he ran off to head of rides, and he said, and they tried to crush me that day. I was a bit naive back then, gullible. They never broke me. Yes. With all the nitty-gritty stuff. Oh, this would go, but it's not going to go for 2 hours. Okay. When I said, "You're busting my balls," I'd never actually said that to anyone before. And after that occasion, I didn't use that phrase again. For some odd reason, that morning, I happened to say that. I never used that terminology. And even after I said it, after I said it, I thought to myself, probably could have said something different, but nonetheless, I think I've actually recorded 34 bits of footage for this. 34 bits of footage. Unbelievable, 34 bits of footage. And I was really quite gullible at the time. I come up to his office, and he's like, he says, "Do you want the job or do you need the job?" Now, and then he said, "Right, you're on probation. You so much look at the you so much look at the supervisor the wrong way. You say the wrong thing to anyone. You do the wrong thing. You're out." And he said a few more words, and he said a few more words, and he said, "Do you want the job or do you need the job?" I said, I told him I wanted the job. Really gullible at the time. I'll look back, I reflect back, I kind of regret that. I regret giving in and being gullible and playing the fool. I played the fool to him that day. And at the time, I thought, at the time in my mind, I thought I needed the job. I thought I needed it. I didn't need the job. But at the time, I thought I did. And in fact, Scott, you were the ball breaker. You were the ball breaker that day. You were the big ball breaker that day. Big ball breaker. And what I should have done, what I should have said, fuck you. Don't you talk to me that way. I'm not taking this crap. Don't you? These things you just said to me, they're not right. And I said, and my younger self says to that guy, fuck you. And just, I guess I hadn't thought about it a great deal over the years because I moved on to so many other different things. And just that I moved on to other. I should have said, fuck you, don't you talk to me like that. I'm out of here, gone. Bye. The job wasn't worth playing the fool for. I played the fool for a couple of months after that. And it's a little strange that I kept going for a couple of more months and then eventually handed my resignation in. This head of rides guy came into the park like a tourist. He didn't really belong there. Came in like a tourist. He wasn't any fun. You didn't break me though. You didn't break me. Didn't break me. I just continued on. I didn't lose my attitude. You didn't break me anyway. I continued on. Also, I got a few more things to say regarding Linda, because I remember and the staff quarters were huge. I mean, it was a huge building, and you walk out it was called the stage exit door. You walked out the door, you went down the stairs, but there was a big, huge staff quarters. It was a very big building. I mean, there was a lot of room in it. And one day Linda says to me, "You've got sad eyes." And I'm like, and that was particularly, that grinded on my mind for a while, that did. I thought, yeah, I've got sadness, but for you to point that out to me in like a spiteful, dark manner is inappropriate. And man, nasty. And I tolerated her for a time. But as I said, I saw her once a fortnight. And every time she walked out onto the floor, my chest would tighten a bit. I'd stand strong. I only had to tolerate her for a few minutes at a time, if that. And yeah, but I could see behind those eyes, and I never felt comfortable around her. And yeah, nasty. And remarkable that I still have positive memories in regard to certain aspects of Sega World. Only because I thought I needed the job. I thought I needed it. I didn't. You didn't break me. And I think I've come downstairs now. This might be about the 5th piece of filming. I mean, it was only originally intended to be a 6-minute piece. I was just briefly reflecting on it, and what happens is I start remembering everything else about the place. And so this is about maybe the 5th or 6th bit of filming I've done for it now. Yes, okay. And dragging the chains further along, chain in the corner, analysis, the letter that was inked, pen holder has, and the truth which is carved into the wood, carved into the skin, carved into the memory, carved into the memory. Into the memory. Clown, the clown, the chain is as he creeps along, as he walks along, drifting into the next chapter. Yes, yes. Oh, and we also had fun at Sega World. At Sega World, also, I remember one particular occasion. There was a rave there of sorts. There was a DJ that came in, and I had an extended shift. I had a shift. I think I stuck around afterwards, but during my actual shift, the place was filled with the rave music. I'm not into techno music, really. I digress. I'm not going to digress. I'm not into rave techno music. I can handle a little bit of it sometimes. This particular night, this DJ came into the park, and we were ready for it, and so and after a while, it kind of becomes a bit hypnotic. And so, within a couple of hours, everyone in the park was just like, and the supervisors, the managers, and the supervisors on the floor were doing their utmost best to not. Because all the rights, everyone, all the guests in the park, everyone was, and this went on for hours, and it was very hypnotic, and then so I experienced a rave, and yeah, yes. So there was a little bit of fun there. Not too much ball breaking, a little bit of fun. Very quickly, let me just had a weakness there. At least 60% of the time at lunchtime, what I would do is I made friends with the guy who worked in the arcade. We had a big arcade game section with pole position and the racing cars. And so about 50% of my lunch times, what I would do is, or if I was on a breaker shift, is when you give people breaks, that's a 10-hour shift. But anyway, no, I digress. What I would do, go over the section, we'll do the guy there. And so what I would do is I go over and he'd give me 4 free rides in the pole position. I greatly enjoyed pole position, the racing cars, and it was a really good setup, and the car moved, and I used to actually enjoy that. So I actually did enjoy pole position. It was fun. It was good to do. So yes, ball breaker. Supervisor Ben was very good to me, very good. He was good to everybody, and he was perhaps maybe could have been a year younger than me, perhaps a year older than me. Good guy, probably the most relaxed person in the park, and he was always very good to me. In regard of the older head of rides, the head of rides, first head of rides, Mark, he was a good guy. He was very good to everybody. Good guy, fair to everyone. The first head of rides guy, he was always very good to me. I did extend some attitude to him occasionally, but he was good. He was a good guy. He did eventually leave, and the new head of rides came in. New head of rides came in, and it was apples and oranges, and yes. So that was always very good to me. Yes. Okay, now another person who comes to mind who was carefree was Doug. Doug was about 8 years older than me. He had a lot of life experience. He looked a bit like David Hasselhoff, and he was very carefree. He didn't take the place too seriously at all. He took it with a grain of salt. He would relate stories to me, and he would tell me about different things that he'd done. He was very interesting. And I think I must have asked him about that once or twice. He's like, he said, "What's there to worry about?" And this video has taken its toll on me, and I'm going to move on, and that's it, make peace with it, that's it, and I'm going to move on, that's it, get back to what I was doing. This is a great diversion to what I was doing before, and I'm going to move on now, I'm going to move on. Yes. I left Sega World in August of 1998, and I had a new job by September. So I moved on very quickly. I had a new job within 3 weeks actually, and I couldn't. Over the years, it's become vague. I resigned from Sega. I left Sega World in the August of 1998, and I was in something else by September. Okay, so this has been on my mind. I had like 9 out of 10 anxiety last night because of this, because I was thinking about it all. I was thinking about what I'd said. Linda was not very nice to me. She treated me very badly. And I remember at orientation for Sega World, we had orientation on a boat in Darling Harbour. We were all there, all of us, and Kim spoke first. I think that Kim spoke first, and she spoke well, pleasantly, said somewhat about herself, and I thought she was cool. And then Linda got up to speak, and it was totally different. The vibe was totally different. Linda got up to speak, and the way she handled herself, and within about the first minute, I was like, "You're a bit obnoxious." Something was off. There was something off with her. And then that day, not long after, in the staff area quarters, in the staff area quarters, as I was walking down the stairs, I can't remember if I was walking down the stairs or up the stairs to go into the park itself, but she could have been walking up the stairs, and I said, "Hi Linda," and she gave me a disdainful look and said nothing to me, and I was like, what the fuck was that all about? I said, what was that? And I went into a bit of shock. I'm like, what was that? And I couldn't work it out, and I didn't know how to deal with it, as when she was on the floor with Kim and talking to me, and in fact every time after that she would come out on the floor with Kim, and every time after that they would speak to me, I'd tighten up, because I couldn't talk properly in front of her, because she'd put on this friendly, as much as she could manage, demeanour when she was with Kim, when she was talking to me. But behind the scenes, and across paths with her alone, she always gave me a disdainful look, and it made me feel very uncomfortable, and it made everything awkward after that. I don't think Kim knew about Linda's behaviour toward me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to deal with it at the time. I didn't know what to do about it, but I dealt with it in my own way. And all this has actually been reverberating in my head overnight, because I've been analysing it somewhat, I've been thinking about it somewhat, and I think in fact when I left Sega World, and that was a great relief, because after I did move on from Sega World, I think within a few weeks of leaving Sega World, I think I blocked it. I chose not to think about it anymore, and moved on. It wasn't until years later down the track that I would start reflecting upon it. Probably a decade later, I started to think, oh yeah, I used to work at Sega World. So I just moved on with things. But it's in retrospect and reflection. And yes, after she gave me that look that day, that disdainful look, I was like, what the hell was all that about? I was like, what was that? What the hell was that? I dragged the chains of yesterday along the street, down the corridor of existence, and back to the pain. Sad. Now the memories, the Sega World of sorrow. And everything was very awkward after that, very uncomfortable around her after that. Yes. You know, this whole thing has become exhausting. About 4 days ago, this was meant to be like a 6-minute reflection, a 6-minute reminisce about Sega World Sydney. And now I'm exhausted because I kept remembering things and I've been analysing it and have developed anxiety over it. And certain people just wanted to patronise me and bring me down. And I held strong. Yes. So, yeah. I was being made a fool. And I was being made a fool, and, well, yeah, what I should have done was I said, fuck you. I should have said, fuck you. I should have, I was remembering more. Oh, Kim was always very supportive, and whenever Kim would walk out to the floor, I would be like, oh, right, there's Kim, and then she'd speak to the different. She'd speak to us, she'd go to each particular ride sometimes, and she'd go to each particular ride sometimes, and she'd speak to us, and then she'd come over to my ride and say, hi Kim, she'd say, good afternoon Patrick, how are you going today? And I'd say, oh, doing well, thanks, and doing good, and I remember one particular time that I had spent a considerable amount of time speaking with a guest, and Kim was just over there, and I think she had observed my conversation with the guest. And afterwards, she came over. She came over and says, Patrick, hey, how you going, Patrick? How you going, Pat? How you going, Patrick? And she said, no, I noticed that you just spent a certain amount of time speaking to the guest. I said, oh, yeah, look, I said, oh, yeah, I know it was a bit of time I spent. I said, I hope that's okay. So I was just, engaged. She said, oh, no, Patrick, I just came to say that, let's go to tell you that that's fantastic. That's what we want here. She said, that's the whole point of you being here. And she said, it's fantastic that you're doing so. You make them feel welcome. And she said, I absolutely encourage that. I completely encourage that. I think she said, it's a very good thing that you're doing that. Very good thing. Yes. So Kim was a good manager. Yes. There were some good people there. They eventually moved on though, and also when after the first 6 months had passed, some of the people that started there dropped off and went on to other things within that first 6 months, and then second group of newcomers came to the park. Yeah. Yes. Yes. While I'm at it, I'd like to say a few words about a certain person in the park who was a ride operator and spent half his time trying to be a ride supervisor. A big bullshitter. You're a big bullshitter. And you know who you are. You know who you are. You're a big bullshitter. And you reckoned that you knew certain people, and you didn't know them at all. And at the time I was slightly gullible toward your stories, and that you would do. So Anthony, and I remember, and rail chase. There was a rail chase one day. I can't remember if Anthony was operating or I was operating, but someone always had to sit about 1.5 meters away from the operator. It just ended up being that way. Maybe I was operating one day, and I was relating my plans to this guy, to Anthony. Relating my plans to Anthony. And then all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, I feel sick." Very offended by that at the time, actually. What a rather particularly nasty. I didn't take very well to that. I was a bit like, it's alright. He said, "Oh," "I feel sick. Oh, I don't feel well." And I thought that was a rather nasty and rude, unnecessary response. I thought it was quite rude, actually. And Ben came up. Ben came up and said, "What's going on? What's the problem?" And Anthony said, "Suddenly feel sick. I don't feel well." And Ben's like, "Right, you're not feeling too well. You look okay." He said, "Oh, I just don't know. It suddenly came over me. Suddenly, I just related something about myself to you, and you start acting sick." And I'm quite offended by that, to be honest. And I didn't say that at the time. And Ben's like, "Really? You feel sick?" And I didn't think he was going for it. Anyway, got him off the ride, had a replacement turn up, which I was greatly relieved about, because this guy went by the guidelines. He went by the guidelines, by the book, in a sense. And so Anthony said that he had brushed shoulders with certain famous people. Certain people, he said that he'd brushed shoulders with these people, and he would tell elaborate stories of this. And he said, "Oh yeah, I used to be in the VIP area, such and such and such and such." Big bullshitter, which I was a bit gullible to at the time. Actually, I'd start off on a shift with him, right, with Anthony, and then a couple of hours into the shift, he'd take off. He'd say, "My replacement will be turning up soon." And I was like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I've got business things to do, a couple of things to do around the park." And it's like, okay. And someone else would turn up, who I knew, who I got along with. I'm like, they said, "I've just been sent down here." And I'm like, "Oh, terrific, great, fantastic." Yeah, because he developed his own hierarchy around himself, dragging the chain further, Now, I confronted. Now there was a couple of times when I confronted him. I challenged him a couple of times. I was getting a bit sick of his ways, and I challenged him a couple of times. He did not like that very much. He was not appreciative of that, and we had a bit of back and forth, and he said, what's your problem? You're being silly, and he did not like when I challenged him on that. He was very unimpressed about that, and I stood my ground. Those indifferences took place at Equinova. I remember one specific late afternoon. I think I might have finished my shift. I wasn't entirely certain. Downstairs in the staff quarters area, And there was a woman who turned up. She was outsourced. She was from a company, and she came in, and she wanted to know all about the rides and what needed to be fixed and what needed to be done. She just wanted to know all the nitty-gritty stuff. She needed to know those details. And I remember she came in, and this guy he was in the vicinity. He was there, and she said something to the effect of, "Oh, my name is such and such. I'm here from this particular company. I'm just here to. I need to see what's wrong with the rides today. I need to see what needs to be done. I just need to, you know." And he was right there, and I was right here. And she said this, and then she said, "I just need to know what's problems that need to be fixed, and you know, what's wrong with the parkman." And he said, "Got 5 hours?" And she said, "Actually, yes, I do. And he was like, he said, "Actually, I do have that time. That's why I'm here today." And he was like a deer in the fucking headlights. And then he tried to talk his way out of it. He was like, "Oh, I've got a heavy schedule tonight. I've got a big timetable, and I've got things I need to get." She said, "Seriously, if you can sit down with me now," and she said, "I would actually be greatly appreciative of that. You're a bullshit." And he's talked his way out of that one. He said, and then she said, "Can we make a time? Can I arrange a time with you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm pretty busy. He said, "Got 5 hours?" And she's like, yes, actually, I do." And he left that. Said he didn't stick around that day, because she's thinking, "Well, you just told me you got time." And he was like a deer in the fucking headlights, man. He was like fucking funny. There was a really weird thing with Rhonda, Supervisor Rhonda. Inside Sega World, Supervisor Rhonda, she would be like a best friend almost inside Sega World. The way she spoke to me, she'd be like a best workmate practically. She was a supervisor, but she was just so really good to me. And then I remember one day I was coming to work for a shift, and I was crossing the bridge, and Rhonda was coming my way. I was like, "Hey, Rhonda." She directly past me, completely ignored me. I was like, "Oh," I said, "Rhonda." I said, "Rhonda," and she completely ignored me. That was weird shit. And then the next time I saw her at work, she was like, "Hey, Pat," and I'm like, "Really?" And that was very weird. I remember I saw her at the Orient Hotel somewhere around about 2005. I saw her at the Orient Hotel at the Rocks. I was like, "Oh, hey." She was very indifferent to me. It was so weird that someone could pretend to be like your best friend workmate in somewhere, really good to you, then outside of work, total opposite. I didn't want anything to do with you. I found that to be completely weird. Really, really weird. And she was like, and I'm like, "Hey, how you going?" She's like, so I was at the Rhine Hotel about 2010, and I saw her there, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you going?" And she was very indifferent to me, a bit weird. And I was like, "Oh, hey," and she was like, and then I think I confronted her about that. I was like, "You know what? Why are you being so weird? You're being really weird." And she went, "Look," and I think, to my recollection at the time, she had a male friend with her, and I think he may have said something to the effect of, "That's enough. I think that's enough conversation, mate. Yeah, I think that's enough." It wasn't overly aggressive, and she kind of sort of she had a few friends with her, and she looked uncomfortable, and it was a bit. She had a few friends with her, and it was a bit awkward, and I was like, I left. I didn't think I left the place. She moved into the other area or something. And I was like, I left the situation. And yes, dragon chain further along, because that's what I do. And I could include this as well. I remember one particular weekend. I used to go out a certain amount on the town on the weekend. And one particular weekend, I went to Berry Street. There used to be a nightclub in North Sydney, Berry Street. And one particular Friday night or Saturday night it was, I went there, and I went there a couple of times. And one particular Friday and Saturday night, I went there, and I got in there and been there for, I don't know, I was there for about 5 or 10 minutes. I looked over to my right because it was a dance floor. I was sitting there, vague. Went up to these seats and looked over, and I don't know, there was about 6 or 7 girls sitting there. There were women sitting there, and they looked familiar. And so I kind of walked over, and it just so happened that these were some of the women that worked in, they were from some of the different areas of Sega World that I was acquainted with because I worked there. They knew me, were aware of me. And anyway, so I walked up and went, oh, I said, hi. I said, hey, how's it going? And they were like, and I'm like, oh, hey, oh, hi, hey, how you doing? How you doing tonight? And they're like, and I'm like, hello, no, hi. And they wanted nothing to do with me. They shunned me. They were cruel to me and wanted nothing to do with me. And I was being polite and I was being very nice. And I said, oh, hello, hi, hiding away. And I'm like, oh. And about 10 seconds or 15 seconds after this, I clued in. I clued into this, and then I was like, right. And I think I had a few words to them, and stood my ground for a brief period of time, maybe about 10 seconds, while they were like, and had a few stern, assertive words to them, and then went on my way. And yes, stood up for myself quite a bit in those days, and I thought that was very rude of them. And I actually ended up, look, I actually can't remember if this was after I had left Sega World. This might have taken place after I'd left. Well, I did relate it to somebody soon afterwards, and they said, oh, I hope you didn't give them a lot of time. I said, no, I got out of there. And I said, yeah, that's a bit nasty, Pat. It's a bit nasty. Oh yeah, those women, those girls from Sega World and Berry Street, dragging the chain further along. Yes. And, oh, also, I used to sometimes I get free lunch because I made friends with the person one of the people who worked in the big cafeteria area in the middle of the park, and sometimes I go up there and buy lunch, and I keep getting served by the same guy, and one day he said to me, "Listen, Pat, next time you want lunch, just go around to the side door and just get my attention, knock on the door, I'll see you there." So I tried, and the next time I wanted to get something to eat from the cafeteria, because I always sometimes eat from downstairs, because there'd be a few places to eat downstairs and we get a discount. It was pretty good food, but sometimes I go to the cafeteria, and so I went to the cafeteria. The cafe had a big cafeteria there, and so I went around to the side and I said, "Hey," and he's like, "Yeah, he's going," and he handed me a burger and chips and what, and it was very good. It was very good. It's nice of him to do that. Big TV screen in the middle of the park, big TV screen which was good, and I did operate Mad Bazooka, ended up operating that numerous times, and that was like dodging cars, thinking the balls coming out. But I ended up operating it, so because we had to be able to operate every ride in the park, and so I did end up and be competent at that when I did end up operating. And it's a little different back then. Spoke a little differently than I do now, and I've had many life experiences since leaving Sega World. Any time that there was, if the big boss came into the park, certain people came into the park. The supervisor would go, they come up to the ride and they'd say, hey Pat, hey guys. So, such and such is in the park. Just make it look like you're doing something. Just clean. When they're coming through the park soon, just make it look like you're doing something. You got to clean. You got to make it look like you're doing something for these guys. And as long as we kept the place relatively clean, we did keep it clean because we had to sterilise things and all that. And so we did do that. Craig was a guy from London, and he had come down to Sydney. And I got along with Craig rather well and had a fair amount of shifts with Craig. He would speak to me about the Rolling Stones. There was always new people coming into the park, and interesting people, very interesting people. There were a lot of interesting people there. And there was one guy there, I don't remember his name. He was a karate expert of some sort. Karate expert. Black belt or something. Really knew his stuff. I pretended I took him on one day just out of, not seriously. I said, oh yeah, come on. I mean, come on. And he kind of shut me down on that. Like, yeah. Yes. Oh, that's right. It's not, I'm making. Okay, so I remembered a few of the people in the bar. I had remembered their last names over the years, and a lot of the other people I didn't remember their last names. After I left Sega World, after I left there, I did not see anyone from there ever again. I bumped into a couple of people from time to time. I'd bump into a couple of people, once or twice. Crossed paths with Wayne a couple of times. I didn't see anyone. I actually saw Wayne a year ago. I bumped into Wayne about a year ago, dragging the train along further. So this is the last video, and so I have bumped into a few of them from time to time over the years, cross paths. And it's like, oh, Sega, and people love me say, Pat, Sega. I'm like, oh yeah, remember those days. When I left Sega World, for about 3 months, about the first 3 months after I left Sega World, I attended a couple of private parties which I found out about, which I attended, and many of my workmates were there, and even some people that had previously resigned were there, and they were fun. My friend Peter, who I knew before Sega, I knew particular memory. Peter, who I'd known since 1991. I'd known Peter since 1991. 1992, actually met Peter at Shotcut Theatre in 1992. He said, are there any vacancies? I said, yeah. I said, there's vacancies. So Peter very easily got himself a job at Sega World. And I remember, I think maybe his first or second shift he came up and he was you had a certain costume that for each ride, And he came up on the floor, he's in a costume, and he wasn't too happy because he had long hair and he had to have very short hair at Sega World. It was short hair, very conservative. And he came up onto the floor with a mixed match of the different costumes put together. And I said, Peter, I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, being on the road. I said, you've mismatched the uniform. He said, oh, not very stylish here, are they? Not very stylish. He said, so I just sort of changed up a bit. I said, you can't do that. He said, oh, well, we'll see how it goes. Soon enough, supervisor comes up to me and says, Peter, what are you doing? He's like, oh, just being at the road. I said, what are you doing? What's this you're wearing? He said, oh, I'm just changing it up a bit because it's not very stylish here and there could be a bit of an improvement. As I said, right, I need you to go down to the staff quarters now to the change rooms. I need you to get into the proper outfit. Now, he's like, well, okay. You can't just wear whatever you want. And he went downstairs, got changed, came back up. I said, oh, that's much better. I said, he said, no, this place doesn't have much style. I'm like, these uniforms were allocated. There's a different uniform for each ride. And he said, oh, the style could be improved. And I'm like, it's just what it is. And he came back upstairs and he's in the actual uniform and it was like, this place lacks style. Yes. I think Peter was there for about 6 months. I don't know how long Peter was there for, I'm not entirely sure. But he eventually got bored of the place, wasn't too happy with the pay, and he moved on. He felt very creatively frustrated. I think Peter actually made friends with there was a clown who did tricks in the park, and this guy who was this clown's a professional clown, did tours around Europe. And Peter made acquaintances with him in Australia. In fact, what Peter would actually do was ended up juggling for people. He was very good in the park with people, juggle for them. It was quite good in that way, in that sense. Peter became discontented with Sega. I think one of the main reasons why is because he had long hair, and they said you cut your hair. They're very conservative at Sega World and had to have short back and sization. In fact, I think they considered my hair to be long because my hair at the time was just at the top of my ears, and very short in the back. They never complained about it. They said you can't come below your ears. And many of the guys at Sega World had standard short back and sides. And I didn't have a standard short back and sides, but I had very short. Peter had long hair. They grown to cut his hair off. He sacrificed his hair. And although I think that he felt disenchanted, he felt disgruntled by the aspects of Sega World. And I think he may have been there for about 6 months, and afterwards that time he was, I think he was greatly missing his hair, his long hair, and the rewards of Sega World weren't great for him. And when he did his juggling for the crowds, I think the park managers and supervisors appreciated that to an extent. He wanted to do a lot more though, and so he left. He left and grew his hair back. He never ever liked having his hair short. It looked a bit weird short, to be honest, because I'd never seen him with short hair, but I never liked it, and he grew it back. What else was I going to say? At the time when I left Sega, in regard to friendships, partial regret to the fact that I think when I left I just didn't cut everything off. I just moved on. But at the time I'm leaving, I think I'm because there's other people that I haven't mentioned. There's other people that I was quite close to. That I worked very well with, that I got along very well with, that I loved having shifts with, and I probably could have said to them, let's keep contact, let's maintain contact. outside of here. I'd like to maintain contact. I'd like to keep in touch. Guess I just didn't think of that at the time. And so there's a few friendships that I could have maintained, but I just didn't end up doing so. And I realised that I had not mentioned VR1. VR1 virtual reality ride. I spent numerous hours operating on VR1, and I think that if I wanted to just be by myself for a while, if I wanted a bit of sort of solitude in the sense of I wanted to be away from the crowd, go into VR1 and the console desk and be in there for a while, and it was pretty okay. Vague now a bit, but get all the people in the games sitting down there, put their headsets on. I only ever experienced it a few times during when I was trained on it, and but I operated it numerous times. It was just diagonal from Aquanova. And Rail Chase, I don't know if I explained Rail Chase properly. Rail Chase was an indoor roller coaster ride, and it was set in it was like an archaeological thing. Yeah, like an archaeological thing. It was sort of open cave, and it was an actual indoor roller coaster, and it was kind of fun. I did operate that frequently, and Ghost Hunters was like a big haunted mansion, on this trolley going around sort of thing. Magic Motion, you had the big screen, the big movie screen, and what someone had done in the States was they had filmed them, so that there was a 35mm camera, and they put the camera on the roller coaster and filmed that. So you sat there on the seats moved around, and it's amazing I wasn't sick. It's amazing I didn't get motion sickness, because I operated that often, frequently, and there was two versions of a roller coaster, and I was going to say something. The best ride to be on, which was fairly cruisy in peak periods when there was thousands of people in the park and big queues and non-stop. Best ride to be on was probably operating Rail Chase. Because you're in the booth, you're sitting in the booth, and you're just in the control panel where operating the actual ride. Being on a platform and escorting guests into their seats, and then when they're light, helping them out. Mechanical, and it was you're being very mechanical for hours on end. And when the park was full, Ghost Hunters was not exactly fun. Because you didn't need to use the control panel. Very rarely used the control panel. That wasn't fun. Aquanova, okay. Ironically enough, in busy periods, Aquanova was okay, because just socialising to the people in the queue outside. Or if you're operating, pretty okay actually, pretty okay. I guess one a fucking nightmare because there's nowhere to go. I never operated Mad Bazooka that often, but in peak periods of Mad Bazooka, probably pretty okay, as well as VR1. Yes, and so as well as VR1, yeah. So there was also Nickelodeon. They had Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon was in a kids area, kids section. Nickelodeon. I went in there twice to visit literally ride operators. We didn't needed to know about Nickelodeon. Didn't have to operate it. The people who operated it didn't assist on the other rides. It was sort of a separate entity for the kids. In regard of did we go on the rides after the park opened? Yes, technically yes, because you had to shift on rail chase, and your opening rail chase had to ride the roller coaster around. And if maintenance had already done that at say 6 AM, because maintenance arrived early, if maintenance had already done that, you didn't necessarily have to do that. Sometimes you just did it anyway, just to want to go around the track, make sure it's all okay. I don't know if that, and sometimes that was done on Acronova, but you didn't have to sit in the pods on Acronova because they were right in front, so you just operated and made sure everything sounded okay and looked okay. But with rail chase, yes, ghost hunters, maintenance had probably been there at 5 or 6 AM to check that. Usually most of the time that we rocked up to our shift, morning shift, maintenance had already taken care of everything. And so, yes, did that. So, still went on rail chase. I went on that. So did technically still go on them. Yes, something more actually. I did maintain a friendship outside the park. There was a guy, Paul, who rocked up. Paul, he was an actor, and he'd been to NIDA. Paul Berry, how you going, Paul Berry? Hey Paul, how's it going? And because I heard him speaking one day, he said he was an actor. I said, hey, you're an actor? He said, yes. He said, yes. Kind of conservative in a sense. And, unfortunately in 2011 our friendship went south. That was my fault. I got a bit too intense. I was going through a weird period in my life, and I got a bit too intense toward him. I was just sort of saying hello, but, hi Paul, how's it going? I was conveying myself. Things went south, my fault. I do regret that. I do regret that because I was going through a weird phase in my life, and he was been to NIDA. He is a prominent actor in the Australian television film industry. He was getting things on TV series, and I thought, he gave me a lot of time in the park. I got along well with him actually. I remember playing frisbee with him at Bondi Beach, and. One day on rail chase, I said something, and he laid down on the platform, and he thought it was so funny. Got down on the platform. I thought it was I just said something. He thought it was hysterical. We had a few shifts together. He was kind of went by the guidebook, but he went by the guidebook though. He went by the rules of the place. He went by the rules of the place, and he didn't divert from that. He was a bit conservative in that sense, and. Yes, Paul, and good guy, and I would still believe that he would be working. I still believe that he's working in the industry, and that, and yes, we're going to take that memory. What else was I going to mention actually? And also I was partly ostracised at Sega in certain regard. In fact, actually, operating Magic Motion was a terrific place to contemplate your navel, because what happened in busy periods, in between groups, there'd be about 5 or 6 minutes in between groups, because as after you entered the foyer of Magic Motion, you went into another room to watch a introduction video, I believe. I just remembered that. Just remembered it after all these years, and So in between that time, it was about 6 or 7 minutes when I actually had the entire theatre to, because it was set up as a theatre, and I had the theatre to you'd have the theatre to yourself if you're operating. So it was, if you wanted some bit of alone time, a bit of rest, operate Magic Motion in busy period, and also the assistants outside who just let all the guests in, and you put all the guests into the introduction room. They'd sometimes just often come in to see me, and they'd say, "You just come in for a few minutes to have a rest." I was very competitive to operate rail chase because everyone wanted to operate rail chase, and there'd be a phone on the platform, and sometimes the assistant who was letting people off the ride, they'd call the booth, and you knew what they wanted, and they'd say, "Can I operate?" And he'd say, "I've still got 10 minutes left. I've got 10 minutes." It was a bit competitive, depending on who you were working with. And they'd say 10 more minutes. They'd be like, "Ugh." Because once you're in the booth of rail chase operating, it was very smooth sailing. You had to focus on what you were doing, of course, but you sat down. You were actually sitting down at the control booth. You weren't interacting with the people outside. You were, the first carriage of people, small carriages. You just had to do that. You had to watch that, and you had to you get the thumbs up signal to go. It was very cruisy, really cruisy, and everyone wanted to do that. And everyone wanted to do that. And in fact, Magic Motion was set up like a theatre, and that was pretty cool to do that. It was pretty cool to do that. Yes. Lucky I've said everything about Sega World Sydney. I haven't actually said everything about Sega World Sydney, well, I mean, what's the point really? I've 20 years ago, 23 years ago, 10, 20, 23 years ago, there's not really much point to. A few more memories keep coming back to me, but there's not much really point in putting it on film, I don't think. And I thought, oh, I've covered everything. I'm thinking I've covered everything. It's like the uniforms. I didn't really say too much about the uniforms. The uniforms, right. Rail Chase was a safari outfit, a khaki outfit, safari outfit. Ghost Hunters was, we were dressed as, well, the theme was mad scientists. That was the theme. And even though the actual, we go around the track, you go through different rooms of a house, haunted mansion type of thing. So we had, actually we wore laboratory coats, and it was just pants. I can't remember what colour the pants were. Maybe they were like a vanilla colour or light brown, but we had laboratory coats on, laboratory coats. And for Aquanova, there was a futuristic blue outfit for Aquanova, so it was all navy blue, and it had yellow and red green stripes down the side. And for Mad Bazooka, it was similar to Aquanova, and because in the future section of the park, it was all the same uniform, except for Mad Bazooka, it had the blue pants, and it was a blue top with a fluoro green vest. It was a fairly unattractive outfit. And same, and for VR1, it was exactly the same. The only difference between VR, Aquanova, AS1, Mad Bazooka was that AS1, Aquanova, and VR1 had the same uniform, except for Mad Bazooka, you had the fluoro green vest. It was a bit awful. This is cut in. Oh, it's the 9th of December. No, it's not. It's 9th of October 2022. And okay, so Aquanova, so the uniform for Aquanova, AS1, Mad Bazooka, and VR1 was the same uniform, except that on Mad Baz had to wear what I just said 15 seconds previously. I gave the wrong impression about. There was a light green fluoro vest that you had to wear on Mad Bazooka, and I thought that that's what made the uniform unattractive. So the actual uniform itself, which was white sleeves, green and red stripe, or pinkish stripe, it was a blue outfit, blue pants, blue top and bottom, green and red stripe running down the side, white shirt. I thought it was an attractive outfit. It's the green vest that we had to wear on Mabzuga. That was the unattractive addition to the outfit. And also, if there was a late night shift at Sega World, we've had late night shifts at Sega World. When we were shutting everything, everyone had to go down to Mabzuga, and there were all the balls in the court, where all the car things were, and you had to rake up the. Everyone had to help to rake up all the balls. You had to help to do that. Yeah, it's just that fluoro green vest. No, but the rest of the uniform, yes. Yes. And I remember when the part first started up, and they said to us, "No, we actually really want you to. We really like you to act your parts out, really act them out." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And we tried that, and that lasted all of about 5 minutes. Like, act like you're in a safari, act like you're a mad scientist, which is still. It sounds fun to do, and it's fun for all of about 5 minutes, and after about 5 minutes, it's like, okay, this is going to be real nice, I guess. Not that we weren't being nice, but just acting out the parts was a bit exhausting. And the most important thing was just to be genuinely nice to the guests who came into the park. Greet them nicely, be polite to them, grin, smile. Hi, how you going today? Good afternoon. Welcome to Sega World Sydney. That was the most important thing. That's it. That's what counted. And we went through a few things where they really wanted us to be very into the theme of things. But they became exhausting and lasted us all about 5 minutes. And the end factor, at the end of the day, the most important thing was just be nice to people. Just be nice to people. And yeah. This is now done and dusted. Moving on from this now. And moving on from it now. Yeah. Dragging the chain further along. Dragging the chain further along. Dragging the heavy chain. Dragging the heavy chains. Now, in regard, and I've been thinking about this, and the trauma, the sadness of yesterday, walking down the corridors, as I carry that chain, as I drag it along the street, and I hear the clinks as the chain goes along the street. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yes, indeed. And back to the pain. Alright, was that gullible? Was that Scott? Good. Was that gullible? Was that gullible? Was that gullible, Scott? Scott. Was that what I was? Was I gullible? Was I gullible? Was I Scott? I was gullible. I was gullible. I was gullible. I was like Scott. Scott. I was gullible. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was gullible, wasn't I? I was gullible. I was gullible. I was gullible. I was gullible, wasn't I, sir? Gullible. I was gullible, wasn't I? I was gullible. I was gullible. Hello. Hello. Oh yeah. Oh. I was gullible, wasn't I? Gullible. I was gullible, wasn't I? Screw. Gullible, wasn't I? I was gullible, wasn't I, Scott? School boy was gullible. I was gullible. Anthony. Oh, very interesting about Anthony, because what happened with the park had been empty mooring in the park, right? And Anthony would come running down, but the park had just opened. He came running down. Everyone, get a broom in your hand. Get a broom in your hand. Look busy, peoples. Everyone, and look at each other and go, look busy, guys. Boss is on his way. Burmeister's here. Burmeister's here. Because he reckoned he said he knew Burmeister, and I said to him one day, so you know Burmeister? He was like, yes. He said, I said, so if you know Burmeister, why are you a ride operator? And he said, you don't get it. I said, well, look, I'm connecting the pieces. And I said, you know Burmeister, therefore why are you a ride operator? He said, I've got to start from the bottom up. We've got to start from the bottom. But when he comes into the park, when you say, Anthony, how are you doing? It's not like that. It's not like that. He doesn't acknowledge it. But I think he said he doesn't acknowledge it. I think you would acknowledge it. I think you'd say, hey, come with me. So it doesn't work like that. I think that seeing because he said he used to work for us, I think seeing a previous assistant who's now a ride operator, I think he'd say, oh, loose connection here. He'd run out and say, Burmeister's in the park, Burmeister's in the park, look busy. And we wouldn't do anything. He'd like, guys, you gotta look busy, guys, come on. You gotta come up to me. I'd say, pat, pat. And then you get a broom in your hand. And he'd race off. And he'd say, come on, guys, get busy. And then the supervisors would come down and would say, Anthony just came down here. What was all about that? They said Kevin Burmeister's in the park. They said Burmeister's in the park. So guys, let's just go get your cleaning. When he comes down here, just go. We gotta look busy, okay? And we said Anthony just ran down here and said, yeah. They said, yeah, just be busy, guys. That's how it would be like. That's how it would be like. Radio. That's how it'd be like. Yes. Hey Paul, how you going? Paul Barry, how you going, Paul Barry? How you going? How you going, Paul Barry? How you going, Paul Barry? Hey Paul, how's it going? Hey Paul, how's it going? Hi Paul, how's it going? Oh, Paul Barry. Paul. Hang on, Paul. Hang on, Paul. Hey, I know something, Paul. Oh, I know something. I wasn't invited to the last barbecue, was I, Paul? Oh, no, I wasn't. Hey, Paul, there you go. Hey, Paul. I wasn't invited to the last barbecue, Paul. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. People hate. People hate. Hey, Paul. Paul, I wasn't. I would have brought a salad or something. I would have brought a salad. Oh, I would have brought a salad. Oh, yeah, awful salad. Oh, yeah, I would have brought a salad. Oh, I would have brought a salad or something. Oh, yeah, I would have brought something along. I would have brought something along. Hey, Paul, I would have brought something along. Hey, Paul. Oh, I would have brought something along. Oh, yeah, Paul. I Paul. Hey, Paul. Hey, boy. Hey, boy. Hello, Paul. Hey, Paul, Barry. Paul, hey, Paul, Barry. Hey, Paul, Barry. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul. I haven't been invited to the latest barbecue, but Paul, you haven't invited me out of it, yeah, because I would have bought a salad. I would have bought a salad along Paul. Hey, Paul. I would have bought a salad along Paul if you hadn't invited me, Paul. If you hadn't invited me, Paul, I would have bought salad. Salad. Oh, salad. I would have bought a salad along Paul Bear. Paul Bear. If you hadn't invited me out, Paul. If you hadn't invited me out, I would have bought a salad along. Could have bought a salad. You didn't invite me out, Paul. You didn't invite me to the latest barbecue. Oh, I haven't been invited to the latest barbecue, have I? You didn't invite me. You did not invite me to the latest barbecue, did you? I have not been invited to the latest barbecue. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't been invited to the latest barbecue, have I, Paul? I haven't been invited to the latest barbecue. Oh, yeah. Latest barbecue. I want a salad. Oh. Hello, Paul. How are you? Hello, Paul. How are you? Salad. Didn't invite me to the last barbecue. I mean, I made a little picnic. Oh, yeah, I would have been a salad. I would have brought a salad. I would have brought a salad or something. I would have brought a salad. Ooh. I have to admit though, I'm not really into barbecues. I'm not into barbecues. I prefer a little picnic. I'm not really into barbecues. Not really. I'm not really into barbecues. Not really into barbecues as such. Also, I prefer a picnic. Hello, Paul. How you doing? Hello, Paul. How are you doing? How are you going? Hello, Paul. How are you doing? Oh, he's not into barbecues. He's not into barbecues. He'd prefer a picnic. Oh, he'd prefer a picnic, wouldn't he? Yeah. Oh, he'd prefer. Not into barbecues as such. He'd prefer a picnic. Oh, he's not into barbecues. Look, he just said he's not into barbecues. He just said he's not into barbecues. Prefer a picnic. Prefer a picnic. Prefer a picnic. But he's not into barbecues. He's not into barbecues. He prefer a picnic. So he's not into barbecues. He prefer a picnic. Picnic. He's not into barbecues. Prefer a picnic. He said, no, he did say that he's not into barbecues. He prefer a picnic. Say there's a city wasn't into barbecues as much as anything was in barbecues. They prefer a picnic. Everyone about I prefer he said he doesn't want to do the barbecue. He said he just wants to picnic. Just a picnic. Oh, no. It's actually August 2022, and there was Kelly, who worked on Mad Bazooka. She was always on Mad Daz. Never saw her anywhere else. Always on Mad Bass. And I just remembered Felicity. I just remembered Felicity. Felicity. I got along very well with Felicity. I just remembered her name. I'm remembering people's names. And she was wonderful. She was very nice to work with. We had a lot of fun. Just that day with that other girl, when she had her hair in a tight bob. One day she came out with it, and she had it all frizzed out. It was a little bit. It was a little bit funny at the time. It was an interesting look. She had it all frizzed out. And next day it was all tight back again. I never conversed with her. I never interacted with her. She every time she saw me, she was like Samantha. I think it was. Yes, because I brought her. Her boyfriend was making a short film or something at the time, and I brought my tripod in. I said, "Here you go, here's my tripod," and then bloody hell, 2 months later, I get it back. No, thank you at all. No, thank you. Just left at the costume counter downstairs in the staff quarters area. And they said, "You've got your tripod back from Samantha." No, thank you, anything. And 2002, Samantha, do you remember 2002, Oxford Street? I can't remember what time of year it was. It was about 1 AM, Oxford Street. I was in the ATM. You were standing just behind me. I finished my interaction by the thing with the ATM. I turned around. I was like, "Oh," I said, "Sam, how you going?" I said, "Hey, how you going?" I said, "Hello, Sam." She was like, "Hi, hi." That grin, that smile people give you when they're like, "Hi, I want to go now." Yes, not that nice to bump into you. Or they're like, "Oh, hi, yep, bye." That was a 20-second interaction. Samantha's a very good person. Samantha, I didn't really communicate with her that often. But Samantha, good person. She was a good person. She was a good person. And I volunteered to lend her the tripod. Got it back. She brought it back in one piece. And that night when we met on Oxford Street, that night when we saw each other briefly. And perhaps I was a bit intoxicated. I thought, like, "Oh, how you going? Oh, yeah, you going?" Look, we're never best mates or anything like that. But Sam was a good person. I think she was a good person. She had a good heart. She had a good heart and good mind. I think she was a good person. I just wanted to say that. Who else do I remember? Half of the people's last names I just simply don't remember, and half the people's first names I don't remember. And the security guards there were good. Got along very well with the security guards there. Very well. The security guards that were there, I mean, pretty much friends with them in a sense. We interacted with them all the time. There was a couple of them very nice people. They were practically friends in the place. I mean, yes. Doug he interacted with security, which inevitably led to him being a security guard and getting security gigs. And he looked like David Hasselhoff, and he looked like he had this tan, looked like they just come from the Bahamas. There's 2 bright operators that became supervisors about 3 or 4 months before I ended up resigning, and there was 2 bright operators who became supervisors, and they said in the locker room, they said, "If we ever become arseholes, just let us know." I think Brett came up to me one day and said, "Pat, he said, do you have an issue, Pat? Do you have a problem?" I said, I was a bit grrr. I went through a phase. It was grrr. And one day I went up to Ride Supervisor one day. I can't remember what her name is. She was always very good. I said, "You haven't spoken to me a couple of times." She's like, "Pat, we're a bit intense recently, and we smoothed things out. And Brett came up to me once. Brett came up to me and said, "Pat, what's going on, Pat? What's going on?" Because I was grrr. and we smoothed it out. He said, "Pat, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. Okay, I'm your friend, and I'm here to help you. Honestly, I'm here to help you." And so we smoothed things out. It was a bit of a rough patch, because I was and some of the others were, especially the certain supervisors, we smoothed it out. Yeah. Yeah. I usually cut it up and I like usually I'm just gonna video, but then I end up saying, oh, but this piece belongs here and this piece belongs there. I remember Grant used to get along very well with Grant. We don't remember his last name. Grant was a Kiss fan, huge Kiss fan, and we spoke music. We most spoke Kiss. I like Kiss. I'm not a hardcore fan or anything. Appreciate them. But Grant was a hardcore fan, a big Kiss fan. I just remember Grant. I think he said he always wanted to get a job on the Sydney ferries, and I think it took him 4 times. He eventually got a job on the Sydney ferries. Haven't seen Grant since the Sega World days, but I remember Grant. And a girl called Geneva. Geneva's just long hair, which she used to keep tied back. I interacted, conversed with her a fair amount. I had a weird experience with her. Bumped into her around about 2002, a few years after Sega. I went to the Cheese Bar one day, and she was there with Ben, and I just happened to walk in randomly really late one night. I don't know, maybe it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 a.m. or something. Walked in there. I was like, oh, I said, Ben. I remembered her. I think it's Geneva or something like that. And I said, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, very casual. I'm like, yeah. I don't think, I'm not overly excited to see me, but happy enough to see Pat, happy enough to see good old Pat. Yes. I sat down. I don't know. I had a beer, and she said the weirdest thing to me. She said, "Oh, yeah." She said, you know, she said, "Oh yeah, she said to me, "Oh yeah, like, you know, we've all worked at Sega, haven't we? All worked at Sega, yeah, and you know, you just, yeah, on that, yeah, you know." She said something really weird. She says that. I'm like, well, yeah, and happy to see you, and yeah, Sega. She's like, yeah. She's being really weird about things. Really weird. People get weird. People get weird. Some people do. Applied for a job in around about 2005 or something. Applied for a job somewhere. I think it was in some hotels and hospitality. And applied for it. 2 days later, literally I get a letter back saying you've been unsuccessful, and so I thought that was great. I looked at the name on the bottom of the thing, the person who'd written it. I recognised it was someone who worked at Sega World. I recognised the name. I was like, hey, I know that name, that's from Sega World. Oh, well, you were quick to say, hey, Pat, come on work with us. We'd love to have you on our team. Yeah, I think you'd be swell. It'd be fantastic to have you as part of the team. Yeah, yes. No, oh, okay, no. Okay. Yes. I had my other ride operator friends that were there, just as good as I was. I was just as good as they were. I was one of the best ride operators at Sega World. One of the best, because the other friends I knew there, they were fantastic at what they did. But there were a few of us there that were the best. And I was one of the best. I was one of the best ride operators. Everyone at Sega was trained. Everyone was trained because even if you you're a cast member at Sega World, you had to know how to operate. You just had to know how to operate. And I trained a lot of people at Sega. That's something else. I trained a lot of people at Sega because I'd have the supervisor come up and say, "Pat, can you train this person up?" I did a lot of training there, heaps of training. It's like I'd have one of the supervisors come up with a newbie, because about every 3 months, 2 to 3, and they'd say, "Hey, this is such and such. Hey, can you train them up, Pat?" I was sent down here because they said, "You train me up." I was like, "Yeah, let's go." I'd train them up, show them what to do, mainly on Aquanova, because I was a bit of an expert on Aquanova. I'd train them up on Aquanova. Train them up. I was very, very good at that, and mainly Aquanova. I think Aquanova was my expertise, and Magic Motion, because I really enjoy being on Magic Motion, and that was my main training thing. Was the supervisor walk up with a person who just started out and said, "Pat, can you train them up?" You just train them up. I was like, "Yeah." So I was very good in that way. It was very good, and I said to Peter one day. I said, I'm training people up at Sega World now. He said, "Oh," he said, "that's great." He said, "Really?" He said, "Oh," he said, "that's good. It's very nice, very nice." And he said, "Ah, are they recognising you for this?" And I was like, "Well, what happens is the supervisor will bring someone up and say, 'Pat, can you just train them up for a few hours?'" And he said, "It'd be really, really good if you could get recognition for this, like some sort of credit, some sort of recognition, some sort of." I said, "It's very casual. I was like, just train them up." And he's like, and I'll say, "I'll spend 2 hours doing so, just training them up." And he's like, "It'd be really good if you could get recognition for that. Like, be very good if you could. Be very good if you get credit for this, recognition in some way. It'd be quite good. Be quite good." And I was like, "It's very casual. They just show them what to do. Spend 90 minutes showing them what to do." He's like, "Okay." He said, "It's very good, but I think you need to be recognised for this." So I wasn't really. I was casually recognised for it, but no one was like, "Here's a piece of paper, and you trainer." It was very casual like that for a long time. August 26, 2022. And I'm pretty much about to wrap this video up. Sega World closed in 2000. Because I said 2001, like, it wasn't 2004. Sega World closed at the end of 2000. Because when I left late '98, it went for another year, and then in fact I left in '98. And the job that I got off Sega World, I was there for 5 months. I left, and then actually in mid 1999, I went to the Mercure Hotel as a houseman. I was there for 6 months, left there at the end of '99, but it's another thing. So while I was at the Mercure Hotel as a houseman, which is, I don't recommend that job at all, Sega was still operational. And I'm upstairs now, and over the past few days, I'm like, I've covered everything. So you went past the cafe into the present, right? And I was like, well, I covered everything. Royalties, Ghost Hunters, Magic Motion. I'm like, missing something? I'm just upstairs now. I'm like, I'm missing something. I'm like, I'm just, Visionarium. We had something called the Visionarium. It must have been next to Magic Motion, because I remember walking into something on this screen. I just remember this big room, the Visionarium, and it had a different smell to the rest of the park. It had a particular, not a cinema smell, it was its own entity. And you'd go in, you'd walk into the Visionarium, it was quiet, kind of quiet. It was dark in there. I liked going in there, especially in quiet times. Well, you could go in there with people in there because you wouldn't disturb them. And they showed images from around the world. And I was like, went for 10 minutes. And you'd go in there, and you could either walk behind the screens or in front of them. Well, obviously not while people were there, but when there was no one in the Visionarium, it was a really good place just to hang out in there. And I think there was I don't know if it had full shifts on the Visionarium, or maybe it did, maybe 4-hour shifts. There was one button to press. And I remember what would happen is occasionally the film would muck up, it would get stuck or something, because it had to do an emergency stops. And I think for that reason, there was actually an emergency stop button. I was like, I never have to use that, we didn't have to use it. Visionarium. And I think they used to have functions in there. You used to remember the Visionarium. Visionarium. I have to, I will admit, a fantastic arcade section. I had a great arcade section. Loved the snowboarding and the pole position, because they were fantastic. We walk into the Visionarium and just dip into the screens, and you watch the video going, images from around the world. You come into the Visionarium. Come in. The Visionarium, yes. The Visionarium. Oh, listen to the Visionarium. Actually, to be honest, I don't even know how I ended up as a ride operator. Because I suppose I could go into that. Because with CS at the time, I had a case manager, and he said, "There's a job. There's a big place. I'm putting you in for it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He said, "It's an amusement park." I said, "I'm not into amusement parks." And he said, "I'll put you in anyway." Because I didn't apply for it by myself. A case manager at the time. And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "You should just go for it." And I just went, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "What is there?" And I sort of, in the interview, I was like, "Oh, I'm into amusement parks." They said, "Look, all you're going to do is be social. That's all. Just be social." And I was like, "Ride operator?" For some, I must have said ride operator, because I wasn't interested in hospitality. I didn't want to be in the kitchen. And I would have said ride operator. The people from the arcade section would come over, right? People from the arcade section, and they'd say, "Man, I didn't know anything about this place. I just said arcade section." And because all the people in the arcade section just decided they wanted to be ride operators after the park opened. And you know what? They couldn't. They didn't. They got stuck there. They tried, and management said, "Well, you're in the arcade section. That's where you are." I don't think any of them, maybe one or two of them, got to come over to rides. Very few. Remember that. Oh, and also, I used to try to get a job at Dimick's bookstore, and I tried a few of them, failed. No, this wasn't successful. It failed. It wasn't successful. Now, I had an interview with Dimick's at Darling Harbour, and at the same time I had the interview with Kim. With Kim Sega World, right? And had my interviews. Dimick's called me up, just as I was being offered Sega World. Dimick's called me up and they said, "You're successful." I was like, "Oh, finally! Oh, finally!" And so Dimick's Darling Harbour, and so I talked to Kim. I told Kim, I thought, just be straight up with her. I said, "Look," because they offered me the job. Sega World, they said, "You're in. We'd like you to be a ride operator." And I said, I just thought I should let you know that I've just been for an interview with Dimick's at Darling Harbour." She said, "Oh, yeah, right, yeah." And I said, they've said yes to me being a bookstore. She said, "Can I ask you something?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Pose a question." She said, "Would you rather just be in a bookstore all day, putting books on shelves, or would you rather work at the best new amusement park in Sydney, talking to all different walks of life, operating exciting rides during your day, during your shift, or would you like to work in a bookstore?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll come to Sega." Because I've been trying to get a job at Dimick's for a while. She said, "Oh, yeah." And she said, come with us." And so I did, without too much hesitation. So, yeah, that's how I got the Sega World. And, yeah. Okay, now, this is me, 19. This is, where is it? My sister had put this album together for me about a decade ago. because I was like, where are those pictures? And I was like, okay. This is me. This is handsome me in 98. And this is taken the day after, a couple of days after I turned 25. This is a couple of days after my birthday, or one day. Handsome me. In fact, I was still working at Sega World at the time. I had said to them, going overseas for a few weeks, I'll be back. And he said to me, and I was just about to head of Rides Mark at the time. I said, I'm going to America for a few weeks. I needed to sign off on it. And he said, oh, okay. He said, perhaps you'll have adjusted your attitude when you get back. I was like, yeah. And also, what else? Also, so good to find this album. Really good to find it. Here we go. This is the Who Damn. This is the Who Damn. Oh, good old days, weren't they? Oh, and I grew a goatee. Remember, goatees were really the thing in the 90s, and I remember that at Sega we had to be completely clean shaven. So when I went on holidays and I rebelled by growing a goatee, I rebelled and I went back with it. And Ben came up to me and he said, Pat, is there anything you need to do? And I'm like, I knew what he was talking about. I was like, I just wanted to play along. I said, not sure. He said, what do you think you need to do? And I'm like, go downstairs and shave my goatee. He's like, and so I did that. I went downstairs and shaved the goatee off. I was a bit rebellious and oh, that's just the Las Vegas trip I went on. And those folks sitting next to me were very good folks, and that guy in the back is a German guy. Got along well with him. And that was a Vegas trip. Everyone was working away hard at Sega. I was floating around Los Angeles and Las Vegas and but no, wow, yeah, that's so good, isn't it? It's so good. I'd actually decided to include a younger photo of myself in all this. Going back to what I was saying, dragging the heavy trains. Well, partly traumatised, and I don't want to think about this anymore. I don't want to think about this anymore. It's done, it's finished, so I don't want to think about it anymore. And where's my compensation? Actually, it's a cleansing. I don't want to think about it anymore. Okay, so that's it. It's done. No, it's done. It's it. Yes. And there are other things about Sega World, but it's time for me to not think about this anymore. It is. It's time for me to not think about it anymore. I've thought about Sega World more in the past 4 weeks than I had in the past 20 years. Yes, 24 years ago. 24 years ago when I left Sega World. 24 years ago, and what's the point? Yes. Well, this was, in fact, I picked up again on this approximately 6 days ago. I think it's the 24th of August 2022. Most of the footage is from a year ago, from 1 year ago now. Remembering back on everything has caused me some trauma. And there's been some pain in that, and there's been some joy in that, because I remembered a lot of wonderful people. And so it's a cleansing. 24 years ago when I left there, and the idea was to put the videos one after the other, just do them one after the other, because I thought, well, let's go downstairs and film a 10-minute piece, just talk for 10 minutes and cover everything. I thought, no, I'll just, all that footage from a year ago, I'll just put it back in the Shotcut and start again from scratch. I have felt trauma and done. I've spent a fair bit of time on this, and I'm done. Yes. It's 9th of October 2022, and okay, so I'm watching footage before, and I'm completely over it, by the way. I'm completely over it. I'm literally about to convert this to, it's been cathartic. It's been a cathartic cleansing, a cathartic therapeutic thing, cathartic. Oh my gosh. I'm about to convert it to MP4. And, in Harbour, Scott, there's certain bits of footage that I have deleted because it's completely unnecessary. And in Harbour, Scott, I've actually watched certain bits of footage maybe 10 or 20 times over, just because of editing, for my own reasons, to gain understanding of it, for what I'm saying now compared to what it was in yesteryear. And you know what? A month ago, even 2 weeks ago, I would have had certain words for Scott. Sorry. Now, because I've watched this footage over and over again, I'm like, if I was to see Scott in person, I'd say, yeah, you're a ball breaker that day. Yeah, I said that thing to the supervisor. You reprimanded me. He gave me a clip across the ear, verbal style. Yeah. And if I see him now, I'd say, yeah, you were a ball breaker that morning. You were a real ball breaker. All right, let's have a beer. Because I don't care anymore. I'm over it. I actually don't care anymore. I just don't care. That's what watching your own footage back over and over again. It's like a counselling session. That's what that does. So I don't care anymore. And yeah. Yeah. I tell you, I didn't intend to watch. I wasn't intending to watch the footage back at all, but I've gone over with a fine-tooth comb. I've watched it all the way through like twice because I'm actually I got a version on Shotcut. Shotcut sort of broke down, so I had to start from scratch on Shotcut. And then I started doing it on Adobe Premiere Pro. So there's two versions: the Shotcut version and the Adobe Premiere Pro version. Done two versions, gone through it twice with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm a bit over it now. And I'm a bit over it. Question my sanity. I'm a bit over it now. Yeah, I am. Now, I took a bit of looking for this morning. I typed into Google Sega World Cast and managed to find. Don't have permission to use these. It's been 24 years, but so. Okay, so the guy, that guy with the guy in the blue guy in the blue shirt with the red tie, that's Ben. That's Supervisor Ben, the one who was always very good to be the most relaxed person in the park. And the guy at the bottom of the photo in the white shirt, the guy at the bottom of the photo with the white shirt with the tie, Scott, head of rides. And I got a picture of Brad here somewhere, Supervisor Brad, but I actually just found this today. I actually found this a few hours back, and it's typed it into Google, see what I could find. And it was a bit nostalgic, a bit weird, and a bit haunting all at the same time to find it. The guy with the red and black striped shirt next to Ben, maintenance guy, got along with him quite well. Brad's the guy with the tie there, the suit and the tie, Supervisor Brad. Very good to me. He's very good to everyone. Just very good to everyone. He had a lot of stories to tell. Good guy. Hope he's still with us. And actually next to him was one of the big maintenance guys of the park, expert with fixing the rides. He'd come over from Japan. He was an expert, Supervisor Brad, and yeah, good guy. Whether I put this into the thing, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it at the moment. Just came across these photos today. Oh my gosh, all those years ago. All those years ago. Hey. Oh, I might put this in very quickly. Oh, and it's the 10th today. It's the 10th of October, right? Or it could be 11th. No, it's the 10th of October. Also, very, very quickly, I'm certain that we had to wear those green fluoro vests extra as part of the uniform when we were on Mad Bazooka. Not entirely certain. It's been 24 years. but I'm certain, I think we had to. There was something slightly different about Bad Bazooka, and I think it was that we had to wear a fluoro green vest, but I could be off. It might have been just the arcade section that where someone had to wear a fluoro green vest. I think it was Bad Bazooka. I can't be for certain. It's been 24 years. I don't know. I can't remember, but it could be. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But no, that's yes. Oh. That would have been taken in 1998. Would have definitely been taken in 1998. Probably while I was still there. Okay. So this is actually this photograph. This photograph is public domain. It's actually public domain because anyone can look it up on Facebook. I've looked it up through Google, and so it's public domain. And my goodness, what was this? I was scrolling down when I went. Scrolling down there. This is on my computer upstairs. And this morning, and as soon as I hit the phone, I was transported back in time, 24 years back in time. It was like, that's Ben, and that's Scott. It was a bit haunting at first, actually. But yeah, and that light, there's no light here, there's no light. Yeah, it took 24 years ago, and wow, yeah. Hello, how you doing? Oh, a bit, hello. Okay, so I'm a bit disappointed today. Oh my gosh. I went to my parents' place. I went to my old room, and because I was absolutely certain that I was absolutely certain I could find my old Sega World bag. I thought I knew where it was in my Sega World ID, and of course over the course of 24 years, things get displaced, things get moved, because my drawer, I used to just throw everything in there and just not get rid of anything. I went over there, I gave Mum a bit of warning. I said I'm coming over to look through my drawers, and so I found a few things, but grand disappointment that no Sega World name badge and Sega World ID. Over the course of 24 years, but this is what we communicated on in 1998. We communicated on this 1998, and that's the little screen there. That's what we had. There was none of that. None of that at all. We didn't do that. I think we could text on this. Text. And the text would come through on the little screen there, and I don't know if we carried this on. I don't know if people carried this around all the time. Some people did. Half the time I did. But yes, so yes, Ericsson. I'm just really disappointed I couldn't find my Sega World ID. I looked through a few drawers, and I found bits and pieces of things, and also, and it's the 11th of the 10th, or it could be the 12th of the 10th, I'm not sure. 4 copies of this. Well, okay, 2 versions, one on Shotcut, one on Adobe Premiere Pro, because what happened when I started from scratch on Shotcut, I just decided to do the rest on Adobe Premiere Pro. My partner said to me, she said, it's rather painful, the process that you're putting yourself through. And she had this package deal, and she said, I've got Adobe Premiere Pro, I don't use it, it's part of a package deal, it expires in February, you should use it, because you're going through all the pain on Shotcut. I said, it's just such a massive file. Shotcut doesn't like 70 files. And so, had to go to Adobe Premiere Pro, didn't like it, went back to it 24 hours later, figured it out. Adobe Premiere Pro, beautiful program. Well, it has its has a couple of things that I have to have Shotcut on at the same time, otherwise Adobe Premiere Pro freezes up. But Adobe Premiere Pro is really, really, really good. So there's a version of this on Shotcut, there's a version of this on Shotcut. I've done a version on Adobe Premiere Pro, 2 versions. The one you're seeing now is Adobe Premiere Pro, but 2 different versions, 4 files, 2 versions, This is the Adobe Premiere Pro one. Oh, and the Shotcut one goes for 7 minutes longer. I was trying to work out the discrepancy between the two. Goes about 7 minutes longer. I mean, you know, this has been a counselling session because I've watched some of the segments, some of the pieces of film, some of the scenes in this. I've watched them 10 times over because I just wanted to, for my own cathartic, cleansing, editing. So I've watched this whole thing at least 4 times through. I didn't have any intention. I had no intention I was going to throw it up. And I thought, no, I'm going to watch it through. I'm going to watch it through. So I watched 30 seconds of the Shotcut. Then I watched 30 seconds of the Adobe Premiere Pro version, and I'm going through it. And a great deal. Yeah. This is the Adobe Premiere Pro version. It's finished. 1998. This is what we used. So I can find that badge. Find my Sega World badge and Sega World ID. Okay. Yes. So this footage is probably from the footage. Okay, so this footage may follow the footage from the other day, and the rest is toward the end. The old footage. You'll work it out. I don't know. Yes, you will. You will work it out. It's okay. It's the old footage. It's finished. Yes. 1998. Okay. Hello. Today's the 14th. Today's the 15th. Today's the 15th of October 2022. Yes, I found stuff. I went back to my parents' place today as a Michelle. She wanted to call into my parents' place, so we called in. And I thought, 24 hours ago, I thought my filing cabinet. It took a bit to find this. I kept it in the hallway at my parents' place, right? And went over, and I said, Mum, I said, my filing cabinet. I said, one used to sit there in the hallway, back of the house, next to my room. She said, there was no filing thing, and I had all this filing. All these were in the hallway at the front of the house. This was in my old room, under the TV cabinet, under my sister's old TV cabinet, behind something else. And these are my payslips. These are my Sega World payslips. And glasses. Didn't I just have a okay. Whew. Just got home like 20 minutes ago. Now, period ending 25th of the 1st 98, 27th of the 1st 98. Period ending. Here we go. Look at that. Okay. Sega World Enterprises at the bottom. Hold it steady. Hold it steady. And pay point says ride. Point of pay point ride. Wow. Now, also, there we go. Look at that. That was in the filing. Certificate of service. And look at that. Certificate of service. And it says here started on the 21st of February 1997. Up to 24 years. This is pretty good. Preserved very well. Well, it's been there. Just at some point in 1999. No, because I would just come home and just put everything in that. Until the 16th of October 1998. I said before it was the August. But 24 years, you know, it's like a bit of the details. I resigned on the 16th of October, so I had a new job by the November. Yeah, wow. It says Patrick was employed as a full-time ride operator cast member. And there we go, full-time ride operator cast member. That's one to buy something with Sega on it. And I received this at the beginning. I can't find my ID, my Sega World actual security ID. Can't find it, but nowhere to be seen. But these are just as good. This is. Oh yeah, very well preserved in this big folder. And my employment separation certificate. Because back in those days I just put everything into the filing system. I've actually got Telstra receipts. Telstra? Look at this. Look at this. How good's this? I mean, look at this. Look. Sega World policies and procedures. Policies and procedures. And wow, just wow. And Sega Enterprises Agreement 1997. There's a big folder. We had a big orientation folder, but I don't know what I did with that. It's, I thought there's something. I've got something. Because I used to file. I used to put everything in there. And just as good as an ID card. I didn't realise it was the October I left. It was the October I left, and tomorrow is the 16th. My dad pointed that out. Actually, he said, "Yeah, tomorrow's." Michelle pointed it out to me. He said, "Tomorrow's the 16th," and then although my dad mentioned something on the 16th tomorrow, because it says here that I red glasses. Final payout was $1,300. Date 5th of the 11th, 98. Payroll manager. But the date I last worked was the 16th of the 10th, 98. 16th of the 10th, 98 was the last day. And it says here I started on the 21st of the 2nd, 97. So they didn't include the training. Because the training started in 1996. Training started in the October or November of 1996. I'm fairly certain it did. It's a bit vague now. Maybe the training started at the very beginning of 97. Maybe the park didn't open until March. Because I said, when did it start? It says here the 21st to the 2nd. I thought the training started in 1996. Maybe the training started in January of 97 and we opened in March of 1997. Ah, yes, certificate of service. Look at that. Certificate of service. So good. Look, my pay slips. All my pay slips. Wonderful. And actually, something else. This one is look at this. Telstra. Look at that, Telstra. These are going to be worth big money now. Museum of Nostalgia. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Yes. Sega, cast member, been very well preserved. I was determined to find this. Because I remember that 24 hours ago. I remember that I had my filing system. And isn't it great? It's great. I feel. If I can find that ID card, but I don't need to find an ID card. I've got these. This is terrific. Patrick Kieran says Patrick was employed at Sega World from 21st of February 1997 until the 16th of October 1998. It was October I left. Patrick was employed as a full-time rides operator and cast member. Lovely, very good. I'm going to put this back in the envelope and preserve it for another 50 years. 100 years. These are all my pay. I wonder if these are worth money. These are all my pay slips. Do you have all your pay slips? Do you have all your pay slips from 1998? Do you? I do. And when I left, and there's all my pay slips in there from the Mercure Hotel, because I was at the Mercure Hotel in 1999. Wow. Oh yeah. Yeah. Very good. Really good. So, yes, so my employment separation certificate, resigned. It's my employment separation certificate. My employment separation certificate, and it says resigned. It says resignational, resigned, and yeah, very good. So yes, so there you go. There you go with those. There you go with those. So yeah. So continuing on this, all the footage back that way is from months ago, and from a year ago, and all the footage this way is from months ago, and from a year ago. Finished. We'll move on from this now. We're going to move on from it. We'll leave it behind now. That took up way too much of my time. Exhausted. And that's it. That's it. I tell you what, I've been doing some heavy chain dragging the last 4 weeks or so with all this. So, yeah. And, indeed. Exhausted now. Okay, so yes, so that piece from 10 seconds ago, which I think I'm leaving it in, a year ago, but it all filled in for the Sega ago, but and the past 6 days now when I've been putting this new video together. Oh, yes, stuff from 24 years ago I haven't thought about in 24 years. I might think about it about once a year, and more recently it's been on a little bit more because I've been putting video together, but I left the video alone for a while, and 6 days ago I decided to just put it back together. I thought if I just do it now, but just if I can take me less than 24 hours, but it's taken me 6 days so far. This is it. I did experience some trauma. It has been painful. It has been a bit of joy. I remember some of the good times. I'm done with this. I'm finished. It's done. And that's it. That's it. And yes, trauma. Bit of trauma. I have a bit of trauma there. A bit of anger and some pain. And remembering good times. I'm finished. I'm done. Yes.